Right, we'll start with this present.
Well, do you know what? I was like taking your comments about body weight training and that style of training into consideration. So I thought I would help you get started on your journey and get you.
Davina McCall. I think my dad's bought this. My dad fancies fuck out of her. Like genuinely, I think Davina McCall is like my dad's number one.
Yeah.
Like, he would actually shack up with her in a second. I actually think I've started like giving the presents away. Apart from that, I got an Andrew Tate picture last week.
Yeah.
And we put it up there. It's probably still here somewhere.
No, it's been cancelled.
He's
taken that away.
He's been cancelled to fuck as well. Mate, that's a class present. I'll give my dad that. I'll genuinely come back and because my dad does. There's a guy called Jake, and he does like spin bike stuff.
Right.
So he does spin bike stuff on YouTube, and that's what my dad does. So you'll generally sit and do that.
He'll build a good fitness base with that.
Pretty much everything I slag is stuff my dad does. Genuinely. See, before we start this, right? Because we had a good conversation on that. Oh, we literally just had 2 comments, and I was like, come on the podcast. Before we start, I want anyone that's listening to look up your Instagram, right? Strength and Conditioned. Just watch like 5 videos and you'll get the gist of what you've done or what you do. And then you'll realize, if you know me and you've listened to the podcast, you'll realize why this is going to be an interesting conversation. If you're too fucking lazy, basically you're burpee daft. Like you're literally burpee till you die. And I would rather fucking kill myself than do a burpee. So if you look that up, what I really wanted to ask you is, because I do a bit of research on people before they come in. You've nothing on your LinkedIn, so that was a pointless endeavor. Literally nothing on it, but I looked at like your Instagram, YouTube and stuff like that. And the gist I got is when you do burpees, a lot of it kind of reminds me of the way people talk about cold showers, the way people talk about, like the way Joe Rogan talks about his workouts, where it's literally like punishing himself so that like everything else in his life is easy. That sort of way, which isn't a negative at all. But would you say that's part of the reason you do them as well, for the mental benefits?
I would say that's probably the primary benefit that I gain from burpees. It's quite a long story. I'm of the firm belief that hard work is going to be the driver of what you achieve, regardless of what exercise style you choose to follow. And for me, burpees was like a gateway to that dark place where I feel that the benefits and the physical transformation and the mental transformation as well develops. I had done weights for years, done every training program under the sun, been training for God knows about 20, 25 years and so forth. And towards the end of that, I felt I was coasting it. I was just kind of going to the gym because it was something that was tied in with my identity, as opposed to being something where I wanted to achieve a goal. And I was just basically phoning my performances in the gym, just going to the gym, doing a program, leaving, whatever. And then what happened was the first lockdown kicked in and I had no access to a gym whatsoever. And you know yourself, like when you've been training for years and something gets taken away from you, like the gym, it fucks with your head.
You lose the plot.
You lose the plot. I had nothing. I had like one kettlebell or whatever. But I was always of the firm belief that you couldn't make gains, you couldn't make progress unless you were in the gym doing weights. I was entrenched in that belief. So my reaction was I just stopped training. So basically what happened was the dad bod kicked in and I just started eating like shit. But you've always got that voice in your head saying, like, you've been training for years, you need to get back at it. But there was nothing there. And I always thought about body weight stuff and things like that was never going to get me anywhere. I thought it was lame. But then what happened was, excuse me if I'm rambling here, I'm kind of going on a tangent.
Go on. So this isn't an interview. It's like go on as many rambles as you want.
The first thing that happened was I got access to a gym. I've got a friend that runs a gym and he would basically give me the keys. So I kind of got myself back into the swing of things. But it was the same as last time. I was kind of just pushing along, but I was building that wee base again. But I came across a guy. Do you ever know the T-Nation website?
Yeah.
Right. So I was active on the T-Nation forums for years. More of a lurker more than anything. And there was a guy in it from America who went by the name of The Punisher. And this guy
was that porn star. With a massive
it's got a wee W in it, so it's like The Punisher or whatever. And this guy was doing the most insane workouts I've ever seen. And he was kind of taking training and spinning it on its head.
Yeah.
Like most people go into the gym, right? And like I was watching your last podcast, and you were saying you were doing 5-3-1.
Yeah.
Like for most people, that will be their program. They'll do 5-3-1. But this guy was doing 5-3-1 in the morning, and then he was doing 4 conditioning sessions throughout the day. And it wasn't just like he was doing hill sprints. He was like doing fucking 100 burpees and then doing a push for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then he would do another session on top, which would be like 100 chin-ups. And the guy's results were fucking phenomenal. But he was also quite logical with his descriptions and his output regarding explaining why he did this. But when you seen the guy, you're like, this guy's on another fucking level. So I've always been the belief that if you want to kind of get successful in this game, you need to look at what other people are doing and not emulate it, but like sort of take sort of components and implement it into your own training style and see what happens. Because you know yourself, this is a game of self-experimentation ultimately. Because everybody's different. We all react to different things.
Yeah.
You need to experiment in yourself. Like the big mistake we always make is we procrastinate and look for other options because we never believe.
It's like mental masturbation into it, where we just sit and read about every other
Absolutely.
topic.
You read about this program, it's like, this is the program for me, but you've not even fucking done it yet.
I think one of the biggest things that I struggled with when I was younger, my best mate, Michael, when I moved to Australia, I moved in with him, so he's a PT as well, but we both started around the same time. But I always say to him, he gets a wee bit annoyed when I say it to him, but he was like, everything I'd done, he was like two years before what I was doing, so I would see all the but he was like reading all these self-help books, and I was like, see, instead of reading that book, go do what it is you want to do, because you're just reading about other people doing what they want to do, because that's what I done. I used to, like, my first task in a day would be like read a book for like an hour and a half, and it would just be a self-help book, and I'm like, once you've read 3 or 4 of them, it's the same fucking shit. And I was just, it's just like procrastination in another form. I've just read about somebody else that's done the stuff, but I think we do that with programs and stuff as well, isn't it? We just like information overload instead of fucking doing it and learning from, you'll learn from the experience more than anything.
Oh, definitely. I would argue that the information overload is the biggest killer of making progress in the gym, because you're always looking for that new shiny shit. It's like human beings are always going to be curious, so we're always looking for that thing which will like improve on what we're doing, and we forget about what we're actually doing in that time in order to get to improve. So you get distracted. I mean, there's a quote, I think it's Dan John, that says the best program is the one you're not doing. So it kind of means that like you're always looking for something better, but what you should really be doing is just sticking to what you're doing and believing in it. Yeah,
fully focusing, like 100% energy when you're in there. What it sounds like as well is, so I used to do a sport called freestyle football. Yeah. Done that for 10 years, right? See, towards the end of it, see what you're talking about, well, lifting. So I've not been doing it that long, as you can fucking see. I'm not huge, am I? But I'm maybe like 4 years into it. Yeah. And like the first 2 years was like, I wouldn't eat more. So I wouldn't really get stronger. I would refuse to eat more. So I would say I'm really only 2 years into like trying to like properly get stronger. But when I was doing freestyle, I'd put my full identity into that. So like everybody knew me as that person that done that. And see, for like the last year or two, I didn't get any better at it. Yeah. I just sat and like repeated the same tricks. Like if I was doing shows, when I used to practice, I would just practice the stuff that I knew I could do anyway. So I'd literally just go in and just do the same stuff that I always do. And like I'd be a little bit better at the stuff I could already do. I wouldn't challenge myself anymore. Yeah. And I think there's, do you know who Chris Williamson is? The guy who does Modern Wisdom, no? No. So it's quite a big podcast. But
I do know him actually.
He's had like Jordan Peterson and all that on recently. And
I've just discovered him actually.
I've had, they do life hacks with these 2 other boys that run a fitness business, and I've had one of them on. But what they were talking about is they describe it as the fitness menopause. Yeah. Where you get to the point, I think it's the fitness menopause, where you just you're tired of what you're doing. Yeah. So what they were talking about, I don't have that with the weights yet, but it sounds like that's what you had with weights, where you're just like, I'm just going through the motions now. I'm sick of it. That's what I was like with freestyle. Yeah, well, definitely.
I was starting to look at doing the weights like from different perspectives, because to me, weights was always just performing manual labor, but paying for paying for it. Like if I was to say to you, listen, Gavin, I've got a ton of bricks in my house. Can you move these bricks from A to B? You would expect money for that. But if you go to a gym, you're performing exactly the same thing. You're moving a weight for A to B, but you're paying for the pleasure of that because you've got an outcome in mind. But it's just manual labour. And to me, that's what weights had become. It was just moving a weight from A to B. There was no excitement in it. It was just turning up to a gym, moving an Olympic bar from there down to there and back up, and kind of feeling good for a while, sitting on a bench and repeating the process, and then just kind of meandering about looking for something else to do. There was no structure in it anymore. It was just like, fuck, I'm just running through the motions here.
Do you know what's quite funny? See, for the last 4 weeks, I've actually been doing burpees. You'll love to hear this. See, the first. So I think I said this in the last podcast, but I'm now doing cardio every Wednesday. Good. But I do it with the PT. So I was playing football. So like a lot of people were, when I was slagging off stuff, they'd go, "Oh, he's just not physically fit or whatever." But I was playing football and I was like, I'd spank you all at like a 5K. I wouldn't spank you at burpees, but I was quite fit. But I stopped playing football again. So I stopped. See the way you do burpees in your back garden.
Yeah.
I could do that, but I will do it 10 times better if somebody's there.
Yeah.
Because I can lift weights myself, but just when it's cardio, I always feel like if I have someone else there, I'm just so much better because I'll talk myself out of stuff, whereas people will help me go. And the fact that you can do it on your own is fucking mesmerising to me, that you can just sit in your back garden. I love the fact that I think we're the only two people that film fucking... I don't know who... When you do like 100 burpees in your back garden, I don't know who looks more mental. Me, like filming Bulgarian split squats off my dad's never-ending tire collection, or you doing like 100 burpees in your back garden.
I know. Sometimes you'll hear my neighbours in the back like putting their bins out and whatever. And sometimes they'll try to talk to me. Like I've got a guy that stays next door to me, old Alex, and he's like 8 years old, and he'll always come out and say, "For fuck's sake, look at you, mate." But that's what like brought you to my attention. And this
what happened? I can't remember.
So this is quite a wee funny story in my head anyway. I get DMs for people on Instagram a lot of times. Right, and what's happened is I get DM, like, because burpees get ripped on social media.
Sorry, mate.
Don't worry about it. I'm used to it now. People will send me reels and DMs and they'll say, "Look at this guy. What the fuck is this guy talking about?" Because once people drink that burpee Kool-Aid, they get sucked into it. So they get quite defensive. Forming, is it? We cult forming, a burpee cult. And this guy my mate sent me a text, and it's like, this guy's fucking slagging burpees. And what's really happening is it's almost like a dog whistle. What they want me to do is to go in the attack. But I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Right? Because burpees work for me. And I also recognise that burpees are the hardest fucking sell in fitness. Because they are pummeled from all angles. Right, people, because people have got their own interpretation of a burpee. What happens is you know yourself, you go to a fitness class, and a burpee is usually introduced at the end, almost as a psychological method to ensure the participants leave fucked. Because that's the psychology of a class. Like, it's not like PT where you've kind of got a structure that you must follow and you see progression throughout the sessions. You just want to make sure people are hammered in a class so that they leave feeling they've done a workout, because there's no progression. You're not taking notes. You've not got a logbook for everybody. You just want to make sure they walk away fucked in.
Knowing they've done something.
They've done a workout. That's what's going to keep them coming back. The worst thing you can do in a class is make people leave kind of better than they did when they walk in. That's just the way it is. And you know what these burpees are like? It's like somebody's threw a fucking cat into a bath. You just spring it all over the place. There's no technique. It's just falling and flopping to the floor. And that was my experience with burpees for years. I hated burpees, despised them, but I would use them in classes because I knew they would get the heart rate up and people dreaded them. And there's almost that wee sadistic part of being a fitness instructor as well, where you kind of want people to walk out.
I just came from a session this morning and I put her on the prowler for that, and her name's Danielle, she treads the prowler. Mate. I don't make her do it that often, but today she done 4 sessions this week instead of 3 because I missed one last week with her. So you can't like get her to lift weights again. So I just got her to do a lot of like conditioning work and then prowler at the end, and she was like, "I'm not coming back."
But you know being a PT as well.
Like, but I like walk behind her when she's doing it as well. So she's like, "Get to."
Well, you know yourself, right, as being a PT.
And you're happy though, aren't you, when you're doing it? No, as in like we're happy. We're like, get fucking moving.
There's almost a cathartic experience in PT where you sometimes get your clients to do things that you probably can't even do yourself. It's like you're projecting through them. And if they knew,
You actually try to hurt them a wee bit.
I try, like, we get that pleasure from them phoning us up the next day and saying, I can't even fucking walk. Like, I tried to get out of bed, and you're like, and I know you did a video recently where you're talking about how that's not really indicative of your progress. But from our perspective, we like to know that they're waddling out of bed the next day, that we've had that impact, that they're thinking about us the next day in that respect. So to go back to burpees, what happened is the burpees technique that people commonly know is fucked up. It's just flopping to the floor and jumping up straight away. And people try to minimize the effort that's put in, so they turn it into like a fucking, like what we call a soup sandwich. It just looks all over the place. However, when I was in the lockdown, and this is to go back to what I was talking about earlier, I came...
What else were you struggling with in that lockdown? Because I think we all forget how bad it was. Like, what was there other stuff that was putting you off working out as well? Must have been stressful having kids during the lockdown as well.
Well, it's hard to explain, man. My kids were just born, so it wasn't stressful. It was just consuming, because my wife had just had a child, my son, and my daughter was a toddler. So you're kind of getting that workload of like bringing children up that age. So that was filling up a lot of my time. But it was just that my identity was getting taken away from me. I've always been a fitness guy. I've always trained. It's been a lifelong obsession, or anyway, since I was about 20 odds. And to have that ripped away for you, it's hard to explain to people that don't really train. It's like you're lost.
The same thing happened to me with freestyle when I stopped doing it. I didn't know what to do. I had about a year where that was the first time I experienced anxiety. And it was literally because I didn't know what to do with my time. And I was always like right now I'm the type of person, I don't sit and watch Netflix or anything. I just don't do stuff like that. Unless I was like with someone. I don't watch stuff unless I have a girlfriend at the time, which isn't very often. So most of the time I don't consume things. I'm always like doing something. So when I didn't train freestyle, I would sit there and be like, who am I like now? And I would just sit with those thoughts. That was the thing that killed me the most. Do you think burpees helps you deal with like any demons you have in your head?
Definitely. It's I would consider it a form of mindfulness or meditation or whatever they call it, because you get caught up in the moment. You don't have time to think about anything else. You're kind of just thinking, how am I going to get to the fucking end of this? Because like, I don't like burpees. They're horrible. They take you to the limit. I like what happens once I've done them.
Before we go into the rest of this, right? I want you to actually sell burpees to everyone. Like, I'm not against them. It's a necessary evil, right? That's what I was saying to you on Instagram, with the way that I like post. Like, I don't actually like short form content. That's why I started doing this. That's why I would have someone like you on. I won't even rip into burpees once. But short form content's so shit, mate. It's like, you just need to be polarizing in the first 5 seconds or nobody watches it, or like, it's called a hook into it. So you need to get someone in to watch it. So you need to say something fucking, and you need to be like well over the top. We don't need to be over the top just now. We can just have a normal conversation. But watching some of your stuff, you have your audience that loves you, and you're helping a shit ton of people. And then I have my audience that's getting into weightlifting, and like, I think that's quite important that we have some sort of other like platform where you can explain that you can teach those people that, and I can teach those people something else. I don't think that's, because we had a good conversation. You're the first person that didn't fucking just come at me.
Well, to be honest with you, I seen your content, and to go back to what I was saying when my friend sent me the text, like, I seen your content and I knew it was coming from a good place. Like, I know you want to help people. I can't criticise that regardless of what people do. If I see somebody try to help someone, then that's a good thing, obviously. And plus, you did it in your back garden as well, so there was that like sort of thing in common that we had. Because at the end of the day, we're just trying to push ourselves out there on social media, but we're doing it in a way that's non-glitzy and relatable. That's a comment that's kind of levelled at me quite a lot, where a lot of guys will tell me where it's relatable. Because I'm not some oiled up juice freak that's got a fucking Joe Rogan voiceover playing about discipline.
Have you not done that? No,
I did actually do it the other day. I just did it because I thought my fucking reach is dying, so I'm going to just try something new. Because I always play like 90s hip hop and that. I
like the music you use.
Well, a lot of people say that, and I always use that. But I thought I'm going to just try something new. But I was gritting my teeth doing it because it's no me. It was kind of flying in the face of my principles. So you'll see these like just up freaks and it's like some fucking guy, man, and he's like doing a tricep push down and there's like a Joe Rogan quote talking about fucking discipline. And to me, that just sounds fucking stupid. It's like you're just in a gym pushing an iron bar 6 inches. There's no fucking discipline in that. There's nothing to be impressed about. But they've got the filter on. They've got the SARMs just fucking seeping through at every pore in their body. It's dystopian almost, you know what I mean? Because it's like, to tie in with what you were saying, it's short form content, it's eyeballs, it's attention, but it's no real. It's fucking fantasy. It's leading you down a dark path. You need to understand that fucking, like, this journey's all about you. It's not about some wee fucking 20-year-old guy that still sleeps in his ma's wanking chariot. But he's, do you know what I mean? And his ma's still washing his wank sock that's under his vest every Monday. But he's trying to give me new life advice. Yeah, you must crush your goals. If you're just like, I can't relate to this. So what the path I've took is just me in my back garden with my kids running about, just busting out a few burpees. But what caught people's attention was the way the burpee was performed. Because we don't perform burpees like the cat in the bath. Your burpees are kind of slow and controlled. There's a lot of emphasis on the push-up.
Yeah, the push-up part. What if you are trying to get someone into the way you do burpees, and they like say they watch me quite a lot and they train 3 times a week? How would you put that into their sort of program and get them to do, and also talk about what you were going to say with the way you do them as well? Right.
So to answer your question, I would at first identify, can you do a push-up? And when I say a push-up, I mean a full push-up. Can you get your chest to just touch the floor, and can you achieve full lockout at the end? If you can do that, we would then perform what's called a 6-count burpee or a 1-pump burpee. 6-count burpee is when you count the reps. And that's from a more military style background where there's more laser focus involved within that movement. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. You know, you see these army movies and it's all that fucking number counting and shit. Whereas a 1-pump's just a bit more faster, but you're still executing the same form ultimately. Some people don't, but there's always that standard we always adhere to, because we always, one thing we pride ourselves on within the burpee community is that the standard must always remain throughout. So if your last rep does not look like your first rep, then you know that's time to stop. So if you can do a push-up, we would prescribe the 6-count burpee or the 1-pump burpee. If you can't, we would then do a 4-count burpee, which is basically a burpee without the push-up. Now, one thing that immediately stands out to most people is that we do not perform a jump at the end of our burpee, and this causes all sorts of fucking chaos in the comments, because you get these dickheads, right, that, and I don't get this mentality, right? Like, see if I'm watching a video and you're performing an exercise wrong, I am not going to feel compelled to fucking come in the comments and tell you, you're doing that wrong, you should be doing it right. I do not give a shit. But there's people that are sitting there and they're like, he's not doing a jump at the end. I've just done 1,000 fucking burpees, and the first thing you're thinking about is, but you didn't do a jump at the end.
I don't care about these people at all, mate. Like, I literally have no time for it. I get about 10 of those comments every single day. But do you know what made me laugh? See, yesterday, right? My dad's I think he's going through a bit of a rough time, right? He's like touching 57 now. And see with these bills going up, that's all I hear about every single day. But he's been like this all his life, right? So like, he'll come back from like Pets at Home. He's like, there's a cat food up 10p. Fucking, he does it every single year, but the gas and electric prices are just driving him insane. And I know, but they are actually fucked. Like, they're so bad. Like, see, since I tried to explain to him the cost of living compared to the wages and stuff here when I lived in Australia for 2 years and I came back, because everyone always says, why you moved in Australia, it's well expensive. But you make way more. Like, the amount of money you make compared to the cost of living means that it's way easier over there. So I'm like, your wage over there would be fucked, but you make more money over there. So I was like to him, we didn't have council tax, we didn't have any of these stupid fucking things. And he didn't believe me, and now it's going all the way up. But he's sitting there, he was reading through his gas and electric bills the other day, and like, he was like, May, June, July is went up, but we definitely used less. And he was like, I know it's going up, but what the fuck is this? And then his last one came out and it was 200 quid, and he's nearly lost the plot. But he's just been sitting, he's joined loads of Facebook groups, right, losing, like, just what other people that are losing the plot. He's like, he wants to riot. As soon as there's going to be a riot, my dad's going to be there. Like, he's been talking about, he's like, where are these riots? Like, I'm getting involved. But see, because he's getting involved in that mindset where it's just like so negative all the time, he came up on my Facebook last night and it was a video of Tyson Fury saying if he was coming out of retirement or not. And my dad commented on it saying that, you're full of shit. You've more faces than a politician. And when I seen that, right, I actually, like, is it compartmentalized it? Is that the word? That was too big a word for me. I'll never use that one again. But
sounded good to me.
I looked at it and I was like, cause I've seen what my dad's life's been like for the last 2 months, where he's went through quite a lot of shit as well, and he's went in a really negative space. He's constantly on his phone looking at negative stuff. That's why he's got annoyed at that. So he's sitting on his phone all the time looking at shit that's annoying him. So I managed to go, that's what everyone that comments on my videos is obviously going, because my dad wouldn't have done that a year ago. And I was like, I went down to him, I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Do you think Tyson Fury's going to see that? Do you think he's bothered?
He's obviously caught up in that vortex of fury, and his hate hump is just increasingly expanding as time goes on. Him. That's what happens to me. But do you know what? I totally empathise with your dad, because my wife will watch this and she'll roll her eyes because I'm your dad.
Yeah.
I'm going through exactly the same things. I'm reading gas bills and I'm constantly on to my wife. I've went and bought an air fryer. I'm just trying to do everything I can to minimise fucking electrical impact or like consumption throughout the house. It's quite all consuming. But it's because I'm fucking reading about it constantly.
Yeah.
And like when your dad's talking about like politicians, I never gave a fuck about politicians.
Neither did I.
But see now, I fucking hate them as well.
I haven't voted in about 6 years, but I'll be voting this year.
You need to vote.
I've got like secondhand like anger through my dad as well. So I'm like, I'll be buying protein bars and I'll be like, they're up 15 pence. That's a fucking joke.
Well, do you know what? It's funny you say that. It's Sainsbury's have put the fucking protein. They know us, like, they know we've all got a like fixation with protein.
Yeah.
So they've banged the protein yogurts up for like 75p to £1.20.
I know, and that gets you. Like, see, over time, I spank so much protein yogurts. That's generally like a £15 increase in my expenses for a month.
Absolutely.
Like, it's fucking horrible. And did you hear what Boris Johnson said the other day? He said, he said if you buy a new kettle, you'll save £10 this year.
What kind of kettle are we supposed to buy? Is it like an air fryer style kettle or some shit like that?
Why don't you just cap the fucking prices and we all save £1,000? You know what I mean?
It's fucking insane, man. I kind of worry about gyms as well. It's going to happen to a lot of gyms because their like sort of expenditures are going to increase dramatically, heating up gyms and.
Well, it's the same with every business, so like that is going to happen to gyms. Obviously, that's the thing we think about. But listen, honestly, I've got about 30 stories, and it's just all stuff my dad's been. Every time I come in, my dad just sits me down. He's like, "Here's what's happening." He's like, "There's a fish and chip shop down in England had to shut down. In fact, their bills used to be 500. Guess what they are now?" He's like, "Guess what they are?" And he's like, £5,000. He's like, they had to put up fish and chips up to £16. £16. I know. Fucking ranting.
Everybody's angry.
What do you actually do about it? I just don't know what they're
I think ultimately, I think as a society we are too pampered to do anything. We're kind of at the edge of the abyss right now, but we're too preoccupied with other things. Like, we would rather read about the hate on social media than actually do something about it. That's how we vent. We vent by leaving comments. We don't vent by like taking to the streets and making our voices heard. We vent by getting on a screen and commenting and feeling good about ourselves, because what then happens is the comment gets a few fucking likes. So the validation hormone kicks in.
That have helped in some way, but you haven't.
Absolutely. So plus you couple that in with like, we're not encouraged to go out anymore. Everyone's like streaming services, fucking Just Eat. They just, I don't know, maybe we're kind of going down a dark path for this conversation, but it's
no,
almost
let's do it, because I've been feeling really strongly about all this.
Maybe it's like they don't want us to go out and voice our displeasure. They would rather we voice our displeasure online, which isn't causing any grief out in the streets. Or I mean, these strikes that are happening, they're totally justified. Do you know what I mean? Like, people, particularly the lowest paid, are getting hit big time.
I think bring them on. So it started with the train strikes, now the bin strikes. I think the teachers are. So is that going to affect you next week?
Yeah, definitely. My kids are at nursery, so their nurseries are closed.
So it's obviously shit on you that you're now going to have to deal with like obviously it's only going to be
Most
a week.
parents are going to have to like sort of change their childcare plans.
Well, then if
It's a
people
hassle
can't-
for most people.
People can't work and stuff, but I think it is actually a good movement, because I think it's the only thing that's going to actually start changing things. Because if people don't, and I don't want to incite any sort of violence, but my dad would be like, bring it on, bring it
Should
fucking
get your
on.
dad on your next podcast.
Well, it should just be a fucking hell, man. My dad would have people on the streets, I reckon, if you listen to him for an hour. But he's honestly so angry. He's so fuming all the time. But if we don't get out and do something about it, like what they've done with the fuel is they put it up to a ridiculous amount, and now people are all right with it being £1.80, but it's still a massive increase. So is that what they're going to do with the gas and electric?
That's
Put
it.
it up to a ridiculous amount, then take it back 20%, and then people are going to be happy with that. That's what they're going to do.
That's an interesting point, because that's something that I believe to be the case, where they've
Because people are all right with fuel now, and it's a joke.
Well, absolutely. Like, they took petrol up to £2 there for diesel, man, but they bring it down to 170 and you think you've won a fucking watch.
It was £1 last year. I know that was a job predict, but
Yeah.
still. And it's something because I haven't moved out since I've came home. So I was in London last year and I moved back at Christmas. I was looking at places in February, but the prices were even starting to rise then. The fuel was starting to affect things and stuff. And like just rent was 150 quid more everywhere than what I expected.
Yeah.
Just everywhere from what Glasgow was like 2 years ago. And then I was looking at all the expenses and I was like, London was ridiculously expensive, but I was like, if I move out here, I was expecting my expenses to be 500, 600 quid less. Like in total, they were going to be like 300 quid less. And I was like, it's still not worth it when I can live with my dad. And I think it's just going to be such a struggle for people that want to move out and stuff as well. I think it's going to be anyone that's on like the poverty line. Like my mum can't do anything. She's got rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah.
I don't know how she's going to afford her bills. I'm probably going to have to chuck her in with that and stuff. And I do think things have to change. The only people that don't care are the people that have enough money to not give a fuck.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. When guys like Boris Johnson are telling you to buy a fucking kettle, he doesn't really give a shit. Because he's just been on 2 holidays there, just get married, fucking loaded to the gills.
Yeah.
That shows you the disconnect straight away when that is what a guy like that puts forward.
Well, look who's going to be the new Prime Minister. That makes you feel physically ill, doesn't it? 'Cause I think I'd love to know like what the stat is, how many people in the UK have like, because I think I asked you, Paul, about this. How many people in the UK maybe have less than like 3 or 5 to 3 grand savings, like have less than that.
Yeah.
So if he's like a billionaire or like multi
Is this
millionaires,
Sunak?
yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to win. I think it's going to be Liz Truss.
Well, just say if he did, how can someone like that run a country where say 90% of the people can't relate to him even slightly?
They can't. This is why the guy had to get some fucking elaborate photo shoot done in a garage, putting petrol in his motor, and they didn't know how to work the fucking motor.
Because he's been drove about everywhere.
Because it's all fucking spin.
It's absolutely, and I never ran about politics because I try not to get involved in politics chats. But see, when the protein bars go up to £3.20, that's when
That's when shit's getting real.
That's when I start. That's when it's affecting my livelihood.
That's when you need to get out of Sainsbury's with your wee fucking picket sign.
But honestly, me and my dad will be the first at the riots.
Tell your dad to watch. You should look up some documentaries.
No, he doesn't need any more.
No, these will be good because they'll kind of make him go. We don't have any control. There's no point getting angry anymore. But you should watch the Adam Curtis documentaries. They kind of just explain things to you in almost like in a lucid manner, like really captivating. And you realise, do you know what? See the people running the show, they've not got a fucking clue. Politicians don't have a fucking clue. They don't even run the game. It's mere economists, psychologists, behaviour psychologists, algorithms. This is what's running the show. We're out of control and it's getting worse. And you need to either just embrace it or you need to figure out how the fuck can we do something about this. It's
hard
dark.
not to go really down one path into it, like extremist on either side. Really, because if you start looking into it too deeply, you start going down the conspiracy rabbit holes, and that's when you fry your brain.
I know I've got a lot of mates that are like conspiracy like fans and whatever. And I think that's more. I think that's more to do with something the way your brain's wired. There's people that are just going to believe that stuff, and there's people that don't. I'm not a conspiracy guy at all. I don't believe in conspiracies. I just can't.
Yeah,
I can't like work things out in my head in that manner and think like that's. I mean, they sound alluring, but there's just something that doesn't sit right with me with conspiracies. But it's definitely eye-opening times.
Yeah.
Eye-opening times.
we need to do something about it, definitely. See what I'm gonna go back to burpees as
Right,
well,
okay.
right? Because I still want you to, I want you sort of sell it to people because I would love to people to do that. I genuinely would love people to listen to this podcast and then just send me a video of them doing burpees or something, just to get into it. So, when you started, say within the first 2 or 3 weeks of you starting burpees, or like even within the first month, what were the changes that happened in you, like mentally and physically?
Do you know what? It wasn't like, you know yourself, physical changes take a long time.
Yeah, well, mental changes. Just
Mental
talk about that.
It was just more the elation of completing a fucking hard ass burpee routine, which carried me through for the first few weeks. I mean, like to go back to what I was saying earlier, like when I was on during lockdown when nothing was getting done, I came across a YouTube of a guy called the Iron Wolf. Have you heard of him?
Another porn star.
No. He's a I think he's a first sergeant now in America, in the US Marines.
You're right into the army sort of thing.
No, I'm not. I'm
No.
not at all. I like Rambo movies and that, First Blood and whatever, but I'm not really an army guy. I would like to join the army or whatever, like thinking back now, but that ship sailed. But I seen this guy's channel and this guy was doing 1,000 burpees and I'd never seen that in my fucking life, ever. I was captivated straight
So how
away.
is he doing the 1,000 burpees? Like just like 50 at a time or whatever? Because even like I don't think I could do more than 20. I don't know.
Do you know what? It was no, he's not doing 1,000. I've seen guys do 1,000 unbroken. Like
Really?
unbroken's a term that they use like when you go non-stop.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen. In fact, there's a guy called Burpees Ikram. You need to see this guy. He's like, we had him on our podcast. He's a guy from Malaysia, a very softly spoken guy, quite deep. And he done 1,000, I know it might have been 500 or 1,000 unbroken cycle style Navy SEALs, right?
What is a Navy SEAL one? Is that the one where you sort of do a bit of mountain climbing?
Yeah.
between-
A Navy SEAL's probably the hardest burpee. It's grueling. Because you when you do the push up, you bring your chest down, you lock out, and you bring a knee up towards the chest, kick back, repeat. So you get what we call
I
three
think
pumps.
I've seen it.
Yeah, that's a brutal one, and it's just because of the biomechanics or whatever involved, because you haven't achieved full lockout and pause for a moment. So a Navy SEAL is difficult. And you need to learn the movement. Like if I was asked you to do a Navy SEAL right now, just trying to do it would be so hard as opposed to the push up. Just remembering the
Coordination.
movements. Yeah. So this guy's doing like 500 unbroken, like cycle styles when you jump in the middle and you bring your body in like a fucking lock knife
Right.
and go back in the floor. Unbroken's insane. Like that is insane. I've never seen anybody do this in my life. And this guy does it in a fucking like some house in Malaysia with an aircon unit just blasting out. Doesn't talk. And that was a thing that captivated me as well about burpees. The Iron Wolf flew in the face of fitness influencer bullshit.
Right.
Like you see these fitness influencers that vlog and they're fucking about a gym and they're like snatching a fucking Olympic bar. Let's get 2 people at the end of it.
Yeah.
And then it's like talking about how great their life is and they're jumping into a Bugatti and they've got a fucking drone flying above them as they go into the gym. Do you know what I mean? That's just what was taking me away from gym culture as well. Because I don't relate to this. I'm a fucking guy running about after my kids in the fucking house. You know what I mean? In my boxer shorts, fucking beard all over the place. And then I'm supposed to like tap into this culture, which is all about fucking aesthetics and being greased up and like fucking stoic. And it was, I found it quite repellent. Iron Wolf was just sitting there explaining, right, we're going to do 1,000 fucking burpees. No fitness influencer bullshit. Hard work's the key, let's go. And he would just do 1,000 burpees, one take. And I thought,
How long does that take?
I've done 1,000 burpees a few times. I can probably do it in about an hour and 40 minutes.
It's like you're almost doing that. You wouldn't be far off running like a marathon, like that. The same sort of output.
I absolutely agree. On New Year's Day, I did 2,500 burpees for charity, and it took me 5 hours and a bit, and that was constant.
That's like an ultra marathon.
Pretty much, aye.
That's
I
what
did
it's
it in
like.
my house, in my living room, and I live streamed it onto YouTube.
That's one thing I can't do. I wouldn't be able to do it in the house. See, I can do what you're doing in the garden, but that's the thing that killed me with the home workouts was doing it in the living room. You know the way because you're inside, you start
Sweating.
instantly sweating. Like
Yeah.
one movement,
Yeah.
it doesn't do it for me. I feel
Yeah.
like
You need to
breathless
get a
instantly.
sweatband and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You need to get all that shit.
I just don't know, something about working out in the house just absolutely kill me. I could do it outside, but what you were saying where you're locked down, do you know what? I sort of done the same thing. I, for the first time in my life, went running.
Yeah.
I done like a plan for running, and that was like you're doing. I would be running for like an hour and a half sometimes and all that, and it would just be you weren't even. It wasn't. It was telling you not to go faster. You just got to do longer.
Yeah.
So it was just literally like the amount you get in your head. But I think I've said this before. I was doing the worst job I've ever done in a call center, but I was actually so happy. I hated every minute in the call center, but see, after the runs, I was ridiculously happy, just because it made me feel like nothing was gonna fuck with me.
You can't beat that runner's high.
Mm.
I think there's been studies that have shown that like ex-meth addicts have experienced the same dopamine response from long runs as they did from taking meth.
It's just that bit in the middle. It's the fact that in the middle you want to stop, and then you just keep going, and then you get to the end, and you just get into like a flow state where you don't even have any thoughts. You're just like dragging your body.
Absolutely. But that's the joy of that style of exercise, because exercise should always be about overcoming something. You know, and this was something that I learned from the Punisher on T Nation, where his ethos was overcome and adapt. And you'll get a lot of people when they go to the gym and it's like, it's not about fucking missing a workout, it's about being consistent. And it's not about being consistent, it's about overcoming. Because if you're not overcoming something, then you're not creating the change. Once you've adapted, then you need to overcome again. Yeah. So you need to get into that mindset instead of thinking, yeah, I just need to turn up to the gym every day. But 90% of the time, you're probably just spinning your fucking wheels and not actually building on what you've got. Mm. And this is the thing about weights and whatever. There's like points where you'll always come to this brick wall, you'll stall on a lift, and what do? Do you go back? And then you're kind of regressing in some respects. Whereas we kind of like conditioning, you're kind of always raising the bar, pushing yourself to new levels. And that's something that I like also strongly believe in as well. It's like, I think we've got the paradigm wrong with this. It's like people think weights is the answer. I'm probably sounding like I hate weights. I don't hate weights, right? I love fucking weights.
Well, your background's weights, so you obviously
I love it, right? It's got its purpose. It's the optimal route to hypertrophy and so forth. But conditioning should form the foundation of your training, because you need to be highly conditioned to perform better in the gym. And most people get it the wrong way around. They'll go to the gym, they'll hit a 90-minute session where they're leaking intensity after the first 30 minutes, and the other 60 minutes is just fucking going through the motions. That's not everybody. Most people, that'll be the case for. And then the conditioning is like 5 minutes tacked on at the end. Yeah, I'm going to do like 5 rounds on the Airdyne. And when you should, the bulk of the session should be on the conditioning, because you should always be thinking to yourself, I want to be able to perform in a fatigued state, because then I can really see how I perform. It's like, it's great when you get your rise and grind, and you get your 8 hours sleep. You've had your wee fucking blackout curtains up and whatever, and you've had the optimal conditions, and then you go into the gym. And like, that's just false, man. You want to be going into the gym completely fucked and get a PB. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, you want to be so fucking done in and then be able to perform. That's the true test. Instead of like having a wee conditioning session at the end, it's just an afterthought. You think it's going to burn a wee bit of fat. No, man, just start replacing the gym sessions with conditioning sessions. I
really think when you talk about conditioning as well, none of it should be talking about fat loss.
No, but fat loss is just, I don't know, man. It's like, I understand that walking and like doing activities through the day and staying on your feet is probably more conducive to fat loss. But conditioning is all about becoming fatigue resistant. It's all about becoming
mentally resistant as well.
Exactly, mentally resistant.
That's what I've noticed the most from doing I've only done 4 maybe of those sessions, right? Mm-hmm. But I feel like it's helped me. I feel like I have more energy throughout the other days, and whether that's like just like mentally stimulating because I know I've done that, or I actually have more energy, but I feel like it's helping me that way. I also feel like I can do a bit more work. And then what I'm enjoying is the challenge of it mentally that I'm enjoying the most. So what I'm having to do is try not think about it before, because it's happening on 8 a.m. on a Wednesday. So see Tuesday and all that. See, every time I have a thought about it, I just block it out. And then people will come up to me like, you still doing it? I'll be like, yeah, don't talk to me. Just don't talk to me until we get there. Because if I start talking to myself, I wouldn't do it. I'd come up with some, because this is what, I don't know if you've experienced this, right? But when you're a personal trainer, and I know I'm going to trigger my clients, but nine out of 10 times their excuses are shite. Like, it's just a load of shite. Like, they could have got their workouts in or whatever. And they'll talk. We're very good at convincing ourselves why our excuse is valid, right? Because this will also sound triggering, right? But the amount of hospital visits don't happen as much as I've heard they happen. Car accidents don't happen as much as I've heard they happen. This is going to I've got a client called Sharon. She was actually in a car crash the other day, but I've heard it so many times. And I said this to my dad as well. He was trying to sell his van, and people that were going to buy it were saying they were going to come back the next day, and then they said they never, because their kid went into hospital. And I was like, that never happened. Like, they just don't want your van. You get to understand people's excuses, and I know how it happens in my head as well. So I've found that the best way to do it is to try not think about it and just turn up. I've found, I don't know if you are the same with the burpees.
Do you know what? That's a really good point, Gavin. This is what we call the darkness, right? The darkness is when you start to make excuses in your head to stop the session, right? Like, so why is there voices in your head to tell you to stop the session?
Because it's hard.
Because it's hard, right? But your body, right? If you actually like this is my belief, right? This isn't tied in science. This is just the lens I see the world through, right? When it comes to this sort of stuff, your brain like is thinking to itself, "Why are we doing this pointless fucking movement? Like, why are we exercising? Like, your body wants to sustain life so that it can allocate its like calories or its expenditure towards doing things that will help sustain life, like seek shelter and hunt food. It doesn't want to be fucking lying on the floor and standing up, lying on the floor and standing up. So it will make excuses. Stop this shit. It's not really going to keep us alive. It's not worth it. We need to use this energy for things that will keep us alive. And you need to have that ability to decipher those voices and realise that these voices are actually a fucking test saying to you, if you don't listen to me, if you win the internal argument, then good things will happen. Like, the magic will start to take place. So you need to be able to have that conversation in your head with the darkness, because it will always consume you. We all get the excuses. Like, clients are phoning you up because like, I can't be fucked doing a session a day. They just can't be fucked. It's normal. That's what happens. Everybody gets that.
I never have clients cancel on me in person, which I think is, they're the same. They just turn up. Do you know what I mean? Whereas online, they have to do it themselves. And I think that's what I was trying to get at. It's like, just turn up. It's like, just at least get to the gym, because people will talk themselves out of stuff before like it's even happened. They'll give their like, oh, didn't get a good sleep last night, I'm not going. Do you know what I mean? They'll talk themselves out of everything. But I think the way you're working out and the way it's building mental resilience is something that will stop that. Because what I've been pushing a lot recently is, I never worry about a client if they get to the gym 3 times a week, 8 weeks in a row. I just don't worry about them after that, because I think then they've got it. But the people are like, right, I'll miss one this week, they're never there. They never get there because they've never pushed themselves past the point of the excuses. They've let the excuses get to them. And I'm always like, for the first 8 weeks, you need to actually talk yourself into it, not talk yourself out of it.
Starting's always the hardest part. Any exercise session. I mean, I find myself at night sometimes, like, this is quite a normal occurrence for me, but no, you've got to do this, you need to do that. And I get these voices continuously, but I've just developed the mindset where I know that these voices are there for a reason, and it's a test. That's the kind of lens I'm putting it through, just to kind of galvanise myself into action, because I know it's just I know it's the lizard brain at work. So I need to be able to override
Who was it that was talking about it? It was a UFC fighter, wasn't it? He was talking about the lizard brain. Is that
I think it's there's a book, a famous book. It's about the monkey brain or some shit like that. I forget the actual name of it.
Chimp?
The chimp paradox.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same process.
I've heard quite a lot of people talking about that. I need to read it.
Yeah. Because we're not really different physiologically from our ancestors.
We're monkeys.
We've still got the same software.
We are monkeys.
Absolutely.
Horny monkeys.
We've got the same software running through us. We've never had an upgrade of the operating system, so to speak. but we've got new strategies to deal with these voices, and it's just a case of identifying them and using them as cues. Particularly when you're working out, the voices become louder and louder and louder, and we make all sorts of excuses.
What would be your go-to advice for a lot of the questions I get on my Q&A boxes, and it actually drains my energy trying to answer these questions.
Yeah.
But like, I struggle with motivation, that sort of thing. What would be your go-to advice for someone that says they struggle with motivation? Because I just don't want to say the same, like, it's not about motivation, it's about action. I just feel like a gimp saying stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
It's like a well-worn line, and it's not about motivation.
It doesn't mean anything.
Discipline.
And I feel it's the same with like people saying calorie deficit just now, just like that's their, when someone says, how do I lose fat? And they just say calorie deficit, I'm like, well, a bit more than that, mate. You need to actually tell them how that works, or like how to just like do it for a while.
What I would say, I might go on a wee tangent here.
Go on a rant, right? Or go on some sort of like, just let your brain, because I can tell you're really thinking about it. Don't care if there's a pause in between what you're saying.
Right. So what I'm thinking is like, it's not about motivation. It's about understanding the tools that are available to you and realizing that everything works, and only if there's work put into that like effort or that endeavor. Like, to refer back to me when I was talking at the start, thinking this doesn't work. I've been using this method for years, so that won't work for me. You need to get rid of that and realize that everything works. So why not just do 100 fucking bodyweight squats? Most people won't be like, well, you need to go to the gym, you need to do a barbell squat, that's the only way your legs are going to grow. Just get the fucking concept of growing out your head. Just get the concept that this isn't growing, this isn't losing fat, this is just hard graft. So if you can do 100 bodyweight squats there and then, what's the worst that's going to happen? Are you going to build a bit of endurance? Are you going to build that sort of capacity to be able to work at any given moment? That's the way you need to approach this. You need to realise that fucking do something there and then. And that's where burpees come in, because they can be done anywhere. That's what exposed me to burpees, was Ryan Wolf, but it was also, I thought, there's guys in prisons, right? Like, why do guys come out of prison fucking jacked, right? Like, sometimes in a lot of these prisons, there's not even weights, but there's guys that are going into a gym looking like Skeletor's Bossack, and they come out the fucking gym looking like Dorian Yates, and they're in a cell 23 hours a day.
Yeah.
They're not sitting online all day reading about the new fucking Joe DeFranco programme. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not sitting about going, shit, I should be doing 5-3-1. They're just thinking, I'm going to do a fucking 1,000 push-ups, however long it takes. I'm going to do 200 pull-ups throughout the day. I'm going to train every fucking day because I'm in a cell and I'm bored. They're not thinking about, shit, if I do like 50 squats, I'll overtrain and my central nervous system will collapse. They've just got that information just fucking seeping its way into their pores, and it's like, fuck this. You just need to train hard. But you don't need what you think you need to train hard. You just need the fucking ability to just start there and then. Just do the 10 squats, do the 20 squats, add 10 burpees onto it, add 10 mountain climbers. Oh, but I don't want to do mountain climbers because some guy on Instagram says I won't get abs that way. You, exactly, mate. Exactly. That was a thinly veiled dick. But you know what? They'll fucking put your shoulders through the ringer. They'll increase your calorie deficit somewhat. They'll get your heart rate up. But they'll get you used to working hard. Mm-hmm. See, once you start doing this shit, the gym kind of becomes a bit easy because the gym's relaxed for most people. People try to portray this image like you go to the gym, it's fuck. Listen, the gym's you sitting in your arse for fucking 40 minutes, and then there's 20 minutes of work. Do you know what I mean? That's a chill out session. Mm-hmm. So you need to develop the strategies that mean that you can just go at any given moment. That's what you need to cultivate, and that's how you motivate. Just realising that you've got a lot of tools at your disposal and using them. If the gym's for you, get to the gym, drive to the gym, I don't care. But understand that the burpees are there, the floor's there. Just get on it. You just need to start moving. You need to be able to listen to that voice in your head and realise that it's testing you. Yeah. That's the way you've just got to decide.
I genuinely think you can't turn that voice off, but you can numb it. So you can stop thinking about it. So what I'll genuinely do is I'll think about other things. Like, so see, even if I was going on a date, I don't think about the date. Like, I wouldn't think about, because like everybody gets a wee bit nervous before dates, but see, if I start thinking about what are we going to talk about and stuff like that, I would rather just throw myself into it, but not worry. Because if you start letting your brain talk to you all the time, it's just going to create all these ridiculous scenarios and excuses. Exactly. You'll end up cancelling. I think that's why a lot of people cancel on dates as well, because they let that not because they don't want to go on it. They let that get into their head, or they're just convinced themselves that they already don't like them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Stuff like that. But you'll do that with everything. So I've got a mate that's starting PT, and see, because he got a first in his uni degree, and he would be studying non-stop with it and stuff, and he'd be dead into like qualifications and stuff, and he's talking about building websites and stuff, and I'm like, what have you done this week? And he's like, oh, I built my website and stuff, and he's like, oh, I've been doing this, but he's like, I don't think I'll get any clients anytime soon or whatever, but he's like going down a route where he wants to get like more qualifications. I'm like, if you want to make any money, you need to stop being so autistic with it all. And that's what I said to him. I was like, you actually need to start doing stuff that's going to help people.
yeah.
Because if you just start like with all of these qualifications, you're going to be like, have all these like different qualifications. No one gives an actual fuck.
Well,
Like nobody cares.
do you know what? It's a good point you make, because it goes back to what you were saying earlier. It's like taking action in that respect. Like you've got to ask yourself, what is confidence? What is confidence, right? Like if I ask you to fucking do a Navy SEAL burpee, you're going to be like, you're probably going to look like Stevie Wonder.
Absolutely, I'm not doing that.
Exactly, you'll look like fucking Stevie Wonder on the Crystal Maze trying to grab golden tickets. Do you know what I mean? But if I ask you to make me a cup of tea, you'll make me a cup of tea because you've done it so many times in your fucking life.
You made me quite nervous.
You know what I mean? No. All right, a sandwich in. Right, but it's repetition. Repetition breeds confidence.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to put yourself in a situation where you're doing the reps, where you're performing, like you're taking action, you're doing the tasks, instead of fucking like reading all the information, think, I need to know this, but I need to know this as well before I do this.
Mm-hmm.
I need to have this knowledge before I can. No, you just start. You just fucking start. You get the reps in, you do the task, you become more confident by doing the task instead of just fucking soaking up information. This is what it all goes back to. It's information overload.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute information overload. This is, you'd like to go back to what your dad's saying. He's just being creamed with information. It's just working him up into a frenzy. So it's not about taking the information aboard, it's about doing the fucking burpees. It's about doing the squats. It's not about getting, oh no, but some guy told me not to do this or that. It's like, fuck it, just do something.
I think it's very much the same as, so see when people say they have gym anxiety, like absolutely, they do have it.
Yeah.
But see, reading about other people's experiences with gym anxiety, I don't think that helps you. So I remember Paul saying when he's had a like therapist client, if they've got social anxiety, they'll make them, correct me if I'm wrong when I say this, Paul, but they'll make them go up to people in the street and just say something ridiculous. And it's like exposure therapy.
Yeah.
So literally they'll just like go up to people in the street and keep like, either even just spark a conversation or just say something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that just gets them exposed to it. The gym's the same. See if you just keep going into the like lifting area.
Yeah.
Nothing actually bad is going to happen, right? So see when you think about someone is going to look at you weird because you're doing a weight wrong, they're not going to think about that. The person that's maybe they might actually judge you, right? Some PTs are absolute knobs as well. Like I've had PTs like stand next to me going, I'll look at their form. I'm like, well, your job would be to help that person, so shut the fuck up and stop judging them and maybe actually go over and help them. But yeah, someone might look at you and judge you. That actually might be a thing that will happen, but they will leave the gym and they'll never think about that again. Yeah. So that's the worst thing that will happen, is someone might give you a look for a second, but then they won't think about that the rest of the day, whereas you might think they're going to tell people about that. Are they fuck? They're in the gym every day. So I think it's exposing yourself to that over and over again.
Absolutely. I mean, you just need to kind of like immerse yourself, just get there, take action, get in the gym and realise that it's actually quite a relaxed, sedate environment.
Yeah.
However, like here's a wee curveball. Why are people anxious about going in the gym?
Why do
they get anxiety? Like, what is their preconceived notion of what a gym should be, and why is it like that?
I think bodybuilding culture massively.
Absolutely.
I think it's a lot to do with bodybuilding culture, social media, the way like bodybuilding culture is being portrayed.
Sorry to interject.
The way that people that you would think about a gym usually look, the way it's all promoted, because people that actually will benefit from the gym most don't look like the people that they promote it as.
Yeah. What about all these videos you get online though, where it's like somebody's in a gym and they look like they're having sex with a cable machine and there's a guy filming them from the corner, Like, do you not think that kind of puts people off?
Are you talking about what? Oh, so when people are filming people doing stupid
Yeah,
stuff?
like somebody's just doing something on a machine and somebody's like filming it on the
Oh,
fly.
absolutely. That's one of the worst things. That I just don't know how you stop that.
You don't. It's always going to be there as long
Oh
as
yeah,
phone cameras exist.
That's a mass. I think that's the thing in general as well nowadays. I think a lot of people are afraid of many different aspects of life because of the fact that people have cameras.
Yeah.
I think that's a massive reason why men probably don't approach women as well anymore. People don't ask people out like when they go out in the club or whatever. There's a much bigger chance that a guy will message someone on Tinder or Hinge whilst he's in a bar than approach a girl in a bar.
But then people are being brought up in this society where the most interaction they have is via phone. And like, I look at young guys nowadays and like they spend most of their time on Xbox Live talking to their mates. They're not going out and playing. Like their socialisation is taking place in a bedroom through an earpiece talking to their friends and then probably getting like exposure at school. So what does that create in turn? Like that awkwardness as they get older when they're having to actually deal with the adult world.
Yeah.
So
it's something I'm trying to really push against. So like I don't have any dating apps. I haven't quite got to the point where I'd like approach someone, but that's if I was to go on a date now, I'm making sure it's not on a dating app. I delete TikTok off my phone and just upload on it.
Yeah.
I mute everyone on Instagram so I don't try not scroll on it. And what I'm gonna start doing is I'm gonna stop wearing my AirPods everywhere.
Yeah.
Just so that I'm actually like around people and I can actually have conversations with people.
Aware.
Yeah, because see if I don't have my AirPods then, see even just like when I'm getting the train stuff, I always end up speaking to like people that wouldn't wear it. So like I always end up speaking to like old people and stuff.
Yeah.
Like people that are in their 60s and 70s that's the way they're used to life. But I really don't like the way everyone's going. It actually really scares me. See the metaverse, that strikes fear into my soul. I think Mark Zuckerberg's a fucking freak. I think he's a sociopath.
It's like Black Mirror.
It is, yeah.
It's dystopian.
Loads of those. Have you seen the Black Mirror where it's like people walking past you can see how much social credits?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Well, that's what it's getting like.
I think they've got something like that in China, haven't they? It was like a social credit system or something like that, where you are like if you're caught doing something on camera. Cause I think they have the most In fact, I think Britain might have the most CCTV cameras in the world, but like in China, so I'm led to believe they've got like sort of face recognition software, CCTV, where if you're seen doing an act which is not like permitted within their social infrastructure or like society's norms, then it can impact you when you try to go on holiday or buy a house or have some impact down the line, like the way we've got a credit rating in this country, a credit score.
Yeah.
So it's just like I keep saying, it's dystopian. It's algorithms. That's what's controlling society.
Algorithms are fucking everyone's head.
Fuck it. Completely fucking everybody's head. Goes back to the short form content as well. It kills your attention span. And that's why you always look for the new best thing, which is why you'll never make gains.
All back to the gains. I want to like not start a movement, but I want to talk about this sort of stuff a lot on my podcast. So I wanted to talk a lot about dating because this is what I talk to my clients about most. So my in-person clients, I'll train them, but any chat is usually around dating like that. I don't know if other PTs are like that, but I'm just interested in what like other people our age are sort of doing dating wise. So I think I would actually talk about that quite a lot on here, just how we meet other people. So there's like things I've genuinely started wanting to do is I'm gonna start striking up a conversation with everyone that I like buy stuff from in the shop. So I'm not gonna wear AirPods going into the shop if I buy stuff. I'm just gonna start talking to people. Start talking to people if I'm standing at a bus stop or a train. I'm gonna sound like a freak, but I just want to start talking to people again.
You're going to end up sounding like one of these pickup artists or something like that.
I know. But I'm not doing that with dating wise.
Nah, right.
That's more to decondition myself to be able to speak to people.
It's almost like building your social muscle.
Because I think everybody's losing it. So
Absolutely.
I lost it when I was doing online coaching. Completely lost it. That's why I don't do it anymore. Because I do online coaching. That's where the bulk of my money comes from. But I train people in person, so I would never go completely online again ever because I hated who I was becoming. I couldn't, mate. Someone asked me like how I was, I'd just fucking take 10 minutes to think about my answer. I wouldn't know how. I wouldn't be able to do this. No way. This has helped me quite a lot as well.
What, doing a podcast?
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
Because see, if I'd done this 20 episodes ago when I hadn't met you, it'd been a wee bit awkward when I gave you that coffee and stuff like that. Whereas now I'm completely comfortable, and I think that's the exposure sort of therapy that I was talking about as well. Me podcasting like twice a week, just I don't have any nerves anymore.
That's quite a bold move, because like most podcasts you see is like a Zoom call.
I'm not doing Zoom calls. It needs to be in person. I wouldn't get to know you at all.
Absolutely.
And I can look you in the eye and stuff, and it's actually, do you know what I mean? It's way better.
Aye. No, it's like you said, there's something weird going on, and we don't know how to deal with it, because human beings thrive on social contact. We're social animals. Like, I always laugh when I see these things on Instagram, and it's like, lock yourself away for 6 months and work on yourself. And I'm like, that's the worst fucking thing a human can do, because human beings are social. That's how we thrive. That's how we have become the dominant species on the planet, by being social, by like using teamwork. Yeah. Going away for 6 months and going into like some fucking monk mode is just some fucking lunacy. I can see what the premise is, but our brains aren't wired to be lonely. All people die of fucking loneliness.
Whenever I've been my unhappiest, it's when I haven't. It's always to do with like my social groups are fucked, or like my social interactions are fucked. So I think taking all of them away. Obviously, you want to be able to be on your own, but you also need interaction.
Well, why is like depression and anxiety on the rise?
Have you read what is his name? Johann Hari's book? I can't remember.
No, I know who he is, but I've not read the book.
No, he's. Wait, I actually wanted. No, Lost Connections. So that's probably the best book. If anyone wants something to read or I actually listen to it because his voice is quite therapeutic, and it was a book. The whole idea behind the book was depression and anxiety are on the rise because we're losing connection with each other. So it was ironic because when I was listening to it, I was in London. I'd moved to London to make more money, basically spend more time on my own because I was trying to build my business. So I was literally like locked in my flat all the time trying to make money. Yeah. I'd also moved to a city where, although there's a ridiculous amount of people, it's not a social city at all. Like it's not a city where you can speak to people. If I would look like an absolute lunatic if I tried to talk to someone on the tube. You would look like an absolute psychopath. Whereas people do that in Glasgow. Aye. But the book was basically just saying that we're pushing ourselves away from our like tribes and stuff, and that's where. And then also the way that social media, the way that just media in general promotes materialism. So we lock ourselves away so that we can buy things that don't matter. And that's what has, I don't know how true it is. There's obviously not there probably is some studies, but he was basically saying that's why depression and anxiety are on the rise. There was also the whole first 2 hours. So when you read or listen to this book, the first 2 hours, it basically comes across as like anti-depression and anxiety medication, and like he's got a full-on agenda about that. So when I was listening to that, I was like, we'll take that with a pinch of salt, because with these things you need to read something else. So that was the only sort of thing I'd read about it. So I was like, I need some sort of other person's opinion on that, so that I don't, because you end up if you're not careful, you end up believing all of that, and then I'd become anti-fucking depression medication where it might be saving someone's life. Do you know what I mean?
No, you definitely need. I mean, like, I realised that you'd been to Australia. I stayed in Australia for a year as well.
Whereabouts?
Sydney, Melbourne, and I ended up in a place called Mildura, which was...
Yeah, was that farm work?
Yeah, which was fucking slave labour. And I travelled alone. I went over there on my own. Yeah. And see, to be honest with you, like, thinking about it now, it was a beautiful idea. You travel alone and you're fucking... I found it quite lonely. And the reason I found it quite lonely was because I had nobody to share the experience with on a Glaswegian level. Do you get what I mean? Right? Like, you meet people and you strike up friendships. But Glaswegian humour's quite unique. Yeah. It's very dark. Like, if me and you were there, we would spot the absurdity of something, and would be able to relate. Whereas if I'm way an Australian or I can't say fucking chicken Nicky that guy over there. Like, this is probably going to be quite controversial.
Go for it.
What was it you said, man? Right, so basically I'm in a hostel, right? You must have stayed in a hostel all there. You know what hostels are like. When I was
Traumatizing.
traumatizing, right? I went to you know that way you get like I went in 2003, right? So the internet was in its infancy at this point. You still had to go to an internet cafe to like send an email and didn't have phones or fuck. I didn't even have a phone over there.
No.
And you would get these like magazines and it would say farm work earns $600 a day. And you'd be like, fucking hell, man. So I phoned this place up and it was in Mildura. And I was told on the phone, yeah, you can earn fucking this and that. And I went out and at first the people didn't come and collect me. So I was stuck in this bus station for a couple of hours. So then they came to get me, right? And it was like this Scouser and this guy from Brighton. And they took me and it was like a fucking shack for the Evil Dead. Do you know that way my heart just sank as soon as I seen it? And when I walked in, there was 3 guys from Paisley and they were like, thank fuck you're here, man. Somebody that can understand what we're fucking saying. That's the first thing they said. So I kind of struck a relationship with these guys, but that came later down the road. So, you know how in Australia in a hostel, everybody watched the fucking Simpsons. Every night the telly was fucking packed for the Simpsons. But one night the telly was broke and people didn't know what to do. They were like, what the fuck, there's no Simpsons. So they started getting, you know how they drink boxes of wine over there? Goon bags or whatever they call them. It's probably not politically correct to say that nowadays, is it?
No, we still call them goon bags. Fuck that.
Yeah, a goon bag.
We're not going back away from that. Words are words. Fuck off.
You know what it's like nowadays. So everybody's got a fucking big silver bag and they're drinking it and whatever. And these people are like, let's have a fucking drinking game. Let's have a drinking game. So the
They all
premise,
have Glasgow uni accents, did they?
no, they were all English and Dutch and Swedish. Let's have a drinking game. So, like, what was the premise of this drinking game? Every time you take a drink, you must make a farmyard animal noise. So there's these people and they're drinking and they're going bah moo, and this has gone on for half an hour. And this Glaswegian guy's just looking at me across the room, and he goes like that. We'd get our balls booted if we'd done this back in. And I thought, this is beautiful. It took a fucking Glaswegian to realise that this whole situation was absurd. Yeah. And we connected on that level. We were just looking at each other because it wasn't a part of we are quite hardened. We are quite fucking, there's a masculinity that runs through our behaviour to a certain degree. And when you were just, this wasn't us because we knew that this would have created ridicule in Glasgow. So that was a wee story for you there in Australia. But
so I find Belfast people are the same as very, very, very similar to Glaswegians. So I've always had mates from Belfast. So see when I moved over there, like that boy I was telling you about, Michael, he's from Belfast. So I was surrounded by them and also people from school from Glasgow. So see when I went to Sydney, I was hanging about with 5 people, 2 that I played football with, another one from school and another girl from school. So like people were like, oh, what were the Australians like? I was like, oh, it took nothing to do with them.
I didn't mind Australians, to be honest with you.
They didn't get your humour at all.
No, they're quite forthright as well. They're quite ballsy. They're quite, I don't want to say arrogant, but there's just something about them.
They look down on you as when you're over there as well a wee bit.
I don't blame them. You're fucking slave labour. People go with this idea in Australia. It's like, yeah, I want to go over there and find myself. And next thing you know, you're picking fucking peppers on a field for 12 hours a day.
I did go through some horrible times there, like 2 months without work and all that. And then you have to do the shittest of the shit. But I still think it was the best thing I've ever done. Like 100% the best thing I've ever done. But I definitely get what you mean about the humour. But I was just lucky. Like Michael has the exact same humour as me. Yeah. And I surround myself with Belfast people and Glasgow people. But people did it. There was one time I was serving this family. I think they were from Paisley. But the boy lived over there. He was a police officer. And then the mum and dad were over. And I was serving them in the bar. And mate, anytime you speak, you know what it's like when you're in Australia and someone, you just hear a Glasgow accent, like you instantly just hit it off. No matter if you hated them when you were here, you're instantly best pals. So I had my break, and we used to always I was in a bar, so they used to give us food, and I went and had it with a Glaswegian family, and everyone thought they were like my family. Everyone in work were just like, oh, his family's over, he's having it with them, and it was just so fun because I hadn't been with Glaswegians in like 4 months or whatever, and even the mum, she just got off the flight to Melbourne, and she'd been in Indian the night before, and she'd asked him for a Paswari naan. And they didn't have a clue what she was saying.
Naan.
And she was just ranting about it. How the fuck they know got Paswari naans over here? What is this fucking shithole?
I think it's the relief that you can speak in your normal accent for a while.
You don't have to put it on.
Because when you're Glaswegian, English is like a fucking second language.
Yeah. And so the guy was a police officer, and so I worked on the beach, and he used to patrol down the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one, so I'd only just met him, and then like a week later, so like the manager came up to me in the bar and I was like, "The police are here for you." I was like, "What have I done?" And I'd been out like for 2 weeks solid, and I was like, "I've done something. I've like fucked a window in or something. I've done somebody's house in or something like that when I've been steaming." And then I just go out to the front of the bar and it's just him, and he's like, "All right, you wee dick." And you miss stuff like that so much, like the humour. 100%.
I get my jaw broke in Australia on a farm. A farmer punched me, knocked me right out my fucking shoes.
Why?
And I had to hitchhike home.
Why?
Because I got into a bit of altercation with him, and I said something I shouldn't have said, but such is the folly of youth.
Yeah.
And he caught me right in my jaw, fucking flew back. So I had to hitchhike home because I was on a farm, man. It was fucking miles from my hostel. So 2 nights later, I could not eat anything, right? So you know yourself, like you're kind of exposed. You don't know where anything is. There's no hospitals nearby or whatever. And I was in my bed 2 nights later, and I yawned in my jaw fucking broken bed. I heard the snap, and I went, "What the fuck?"
Wait, so he'd punched you, and then 2 days later
it broke. He cracked it. So it was waiting to go. And I'm in the fucking hostel trying to eat biscuits. I always remember going, you know what I mean?
Tim Tams.
Aye. And when I was in the hospital, I was being seen to. The guy pulls the curtain over, and the doctor goes like, "We've got another filthy Glaswegian in the back there." I'm sitting there with a fucking broken jaw. And I thought, what the fuck? This filthy Glaswegian. I says to him when he comes, "Did you just call me a filthy fucking Glaswegian?" Well, it's a running joke. Don't take it offensively. Okay, no. I thought, you know what, I'm not saying anything because I'm lying here, incapacitated.
Would you never advise someone to go there? Do you not think it was like
definitely. I would advise people to go there.
I reckon I've convinced about 40 people to get a visa.
You need to go travelling. You need to see the world. That's something that was always instilled in me from an early age. My dad done it extensively. So it was always something that I aspired to do.
I find it hard to relate to anyone that's just lived in Glasgow their full life and never done even just a month somewhere else.
Yeah,
I find it quite hard to relate because they think stuff here matters way more than what it does. As in just like their cliquey little friend group and all that. Yeah. They think that actually matters.
No, you need to get. I mean, we always go a holiday a year, but just to get a holiday, we feel that it's like that's the point of fucking being alive is to get away.
Yeah.
Get away from the hustle and bustle and just the home life, because like you know yourself, like as time goes on and with your kids, it becomes a bit of a routine, and you need to break out that
monotonous
routine. Yeah, and traveling is definitely the way to break out the monotony of everyday life. And it's, you know yourself, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it expands your horizons.
It does, definitely.
And it's a good way of getting that confidence, being able to know you can do things. Go and like I always say, go abroad on your own. Try that. Try and go. Don't go to fucking like Amsterdam for a weekend. Go to like Australia for a year. Test yourself.
Yeah,
that's going to be better than any experience that you'll have here.
100%.
Do you know what I mean?
I think traveling alone, one of the most character building things you'll do.
Oh, absolutely.
Exact same. I built my confidence so much just from traveling, and it's like I think it's like muscle memory. So like I didn't have, you know, the way I was saying like I'd have been quiet from online coaching and stuff.
Yeah.
But it means that when I went back in a gym, started doing this again, I was social again quite quickly because I'd built it up from traveling.
Well, you need to be social to be a PT, don't you?
Yeah, 100%.
Like it was kind of probably why a lot of PTs fail, because they don't have that social muscle, so to speak.
I was quite lucky that way. I was bartending and all that. A lot of the skill set you need to be a PT already had. Whereas I think people that are starting PTing at like 19, 20 with no life experience, like their client goes through a breakup or whatever, they don't have a fucking clue what to say or do about any of that sort of stuff. So I think it is important as a PT that you've not been through some shit, but done some shit with your life.
Yeah, we've got to think about the kind of people that PT attracts as a job. A lot of guys get into fitness because they don't have confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? They're stuck in their rooms playing their Xbox and they think, shit, I need to get a girlfriend, I need to get buff, but they don't like to go on a wee tangent. There's a famous self-help book called The New Cybernetics, I think it's called, and it was written by a surgeon. And the premise was that the surgeons would, like, the people who had disfigurements would get operated on, and they would get, I don't want to say fixed or whatever, but things would improve. But they would realise that the psychological trauma or the psychological effects of having that disfigurement remained. So even though the physical transformation took place, the actual remnants of the psychological side didn't disappear. So they could walk in looking a certain way, but it didn't really help. And I find that sometimes what you'll get with the gym, it's like a lot of guys think, I'm going to get buff, and when I get buff, I'll just be like, I'll be able to do this, I'll be able to get a PT, but there's still that fucking sad gimp that was in there playing Xbox. It was really socially awkward. You know what I mean? So sometimes I think that the gym's this cure-all, which it isn't really.
It's a band-aid, isn't it?
It's a band-aid. It's going to help something. It's going to get you stronger. It's going to get you fitter. It's going to get you healthier, but it's not going to change your personality. You're still going to be a gimp.
I think it's like a stepping stone. I think it's a stepping stone you should take, but you need to progress after that.
Oh, definitely. You should take it because it's for your health and longevity ultimately. But it's not the cure-all that it's sometimes portrayed to be.
Absolutely not.
You need to lift. You need to lift. It's like, well, you don't need to lift, but it's not going to be the answer to your...
Definitely not. Right, mate, I think that was a fucking fantastic conversation. I thought this was going to be like... So I wanted to make sure that it wasn't like a debate about burpees, because none of us give enough of a fuck. Neither of us care. Like, I think I was trying to get across the point as well. Even with my short form content, I think a lot of people probably laugh when they watch my short form content and listen to this podcast because they realise I don't give a fuck about a lot of the things I'm saying on my short form stuff. But I really enjoyed having you on. I didn't think we were going to go down the money tangent and the mindset tangent, but really, really good. I think there's a lot people can take away from it, but
hopefully.
And I'll convince a few more people to go to Australia, I think.
Yeah,
Mate, pleasure having you on. Where can people find you?
My Instagram is strong and conditioned, and they can also find me on YouTube, same name. On YouTube, I post my full routines. Like, Instagram's just a portal with, like you say, a wee short snippet of what I do. Here's a routine, try that. But I put full one-take routines, which can last up to an hour, 90 minutes, 20 minutes, workouts that people can do, and just fire on.
So I think if anyone, I've definitely felt the mental benefits of doing this cardio. Just even, it's like 40 minutes, worst 40 minutes of my fucking week, but helps me out throughout the week.
Do you know what, mate? You've got nothing to lose, man. Just keep at it, man. Get your
Right.
one pumps in.
Thank you very much for coming on, mate. Pleasure.
Thanks very much.
No worries.